It is 9:30 p.m. Sydney time on the 6th September 2021. Welcome to episode 21 of Himalaya Business Australian News. I'm your host, Chus007. My co-host is Bindi. We have in recent past weeks analyzed how big the coming economic apocalypse is and where our safe haven lies. This week, we'll circle back to discussing more on Australian economic outlook, how and that it has achieved the 38.4% fully vaccinated rate and set to achieve 80% vax rate by middle November or December 2021. Are we seeing light at the end of the tunnel, or it is the beginning of the real nightmares? Miles Gore said, the CCP will detonate its financial nuclear bomb. The value of China real estate sector, excluding private-owned residence, is 90 trillion, 3 times of the combined value of the real estate sectors in US, Germany, France, UK, etc., and 5 times of Chinese GDP. That's 5 times of Chinese GDP. Huaxia Fortune Land Development is the first domino for the collapse of Ping An. Now, back to Bindi.
Okay, just to recap what we have said in the past on July 5th. In that episode, we actually examined when Miles Gore said, CCP is going to throw to the world a financial nuclear bomb, and we assess how big that bomb is going to be. And just based on public information at that time, we said, the bomb that the CCP has is actually about 3.35 times its GDP. But in fact, now we know that, of course, anything that is in the public domain is not correct. It is actually much, much bigger, and it is actually 5 times. So this is what we are going to be getting. So we are going to go back to 007 to explain to us more about Ping An and why it is such an important company or conglomerate for us to understand. If we want to understand how big the coming economic apocalypse is, we have to understand Ping An because it's one of the biggest conglomerates in China. Back to you.
Yes. So you can see in Ping An, so you can see they go through a Lu Fox, recently been uplisted. You can see, the shareholders, the major shareholder are Capital World Growth and the Income Fund, Euro Pacific Growth Fund, and the Euro Pacific. Kenshare CSI China Internet ETF, New World Fund Incorporation, Global X Funds, Global X FinTech Thematic ETF, Exchange Trade Concepts, and Balloon Emerging Market Fund, Vanguard International Stock Index, Emerging Market Stock, Vanguard International Stock Index, Total International Stock Index, Vanguard Total International Index, Share Index. So these are the major part of those funds. If you look at the 陆金所外部融资 history, so the external fundraising of Lu Fox, we see back to 2015-3, the first fundraising is $780 million, and when they been listed, they got back 1.97 billion US. And the institutional investors, Ping An Recreational Capital, Dinghui Investment, and Zhonghe Capital. A year later, in January 16, the B fundraising 920 million US dollars, which returned when they listed. The issuing price value is 1.676 billion, among which institutional investors are China Investment, Zhengda Group, Guotai Junan, and the Minsheng Bank. Then at the C at the C level, that's back to 2018, November. 1.4 billion US dollars fundraising with a return of 1.27 billion US dollars. Among the investors are institutional investments like a Cartel Investment Bureau, Chunhua Capital, Morgan Stanley, and Swiss Bank, Quanminxin Investment, Goldman Sachs, UBS, Japan, UBH, etc. Back to last year, September, transportable bond of 1.36 billion US dollars with return 1.22 billion US dollars listed. So you can see from the track pre-listing, one will see all those tracks, and all that included are the Europe and US, especially US funds such as retirement fund and so on. So according to MyScore, more than half the swamp has been investing in this called the Lu Fox, or Ping An, controlled by Ping An. So that is more than half of the capital behind. And last week we done a program, which you can see Vanguard is almost among all the major shareholders of the top 8 vaccination companies, who produced and sell and marketed the vaccinations. All right. So no wonder why we see a coherent action of forced vaccination among global citizens, among which, Australian is on the same track, in the same core track. And now I hand it to Bindi to talk about the Australian COVID vaccine rollout cases. Thank you, Bindi.
Australia was criticized as being initially very slow in vaccine rollout, but they are catching on very, very quickly. As of today, there are already 38.4% or 7.9 million people who are fully vaxxed. Fully vaxxed means double dose. As of now, fully vaxxed is double dose. Who knows? Maybe they'll make third dose as being fully vaxxed. Those people who are on one dose is 5.1 million people. And as we know from MyScore, he said that if you only have one dose, there is still some help. There is the new cure that we've come up with, we have discovered, will help you with when you have one dose. But if you're on 2 doses, there's nothing much that can help you. And there have been experts who have been saying that if you have had two doses, your lifespan is about 3 to 5 years, or 5 to 10 years, depending on age. So if you are looking at an average jab rate of 118.6 thousand second doses being given a day by mid-November or December, maybe it will extend to December, 80% of those people 16 and above would already be vaccinated, 80%. So if you are following the MyScore whistleblower movement, you know that the higher the vax rate is, the heavier, the harder the outbreak will be. So it is not good news as far as for us who are not vaccinated. It just means that out of 10 people you are with, 8 people will shed spike protein and infect you. It is a very bad news as far as we are concerned. But of course, other than very bad news for the unvaccinated, it is even worse news for Australia per se. So what we are going to be discussing this week is that we are going to look at the economic outlook of Australia in the short term, mid-term, and long term. Short term is anything under 12 months. Usually that's the time frame in financial world. People short term will be up to 12 months. Mid-term, for us, I've defined it as 1 to 3 years, because in the world of vaccines, mid-term, you can't look too far away. A year is like 1,000 years. Long term will be 3 years later, and 2024 is significant in the sense that, according to Miles Score, by 2025, CCP is not expected to be around anymore. So let's look at how things will look like after 2024. So I'll go back to pass the time back to 007 to go through some of the key dates that we have had from now onwards.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Bindi. So we can say the key dates. Key dates, October to December this year. Miles Score said the new virus, COVID deaths, will start to rise. The US military may be jabbed, but it was said to be by the mid of September, which is 10 days, they should be all jabbed, yet to be seen. The 1st of October 2021, Western Australian health workers and support has to be jabbed. December 2021, 80% vax rate for Australian, and the border will opens, conditional to that. 2022 Australian federal election, that's I think in May next year. October 2020 CCP's 20th Party Congress. November 2022 US midterm election. So we'll see whether Trump is going to be in. 2024 RBA low base rate to continue up to 2024. Those are the key dates. There are two things I want to mention. Okay, it's the military jabs. So you see that will be happening or not. And number two is that with the border which is going to be open by December or not, conditional to 80% of vax rate for Australians. So the RBA lower base rate to continue up to 2024, which is supposed to be, that will have some impact on the performances of property sectors. So back to Bindi.
Now we have looked at many factors that can have impact on our Australian economy. Of course, the Australian economy is comprised of many different sectors. You have the mom and pops business, if they can hang around until then. Usually businesses don't have that much of a cash flow or tenacity to last 1-2 months. It's just like a lot of families, they don't have savings of like that can last more than 2 months. Actually, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. And then, of course, you have the mining sector, which is very important for the economy, especially in Western Australia. Everything depends on mining. If mining is down, a whole of Western Australia practically is down. Then, of course, you have Australia is very much into agriculture. You have the livestock as well as seafood industry, you know, of course, then wine as well. How that is going to look like with all the factors on the left-hand side impacting it. Then hydrocarbon, well, it's pretty much price is set internationally. Western Australia is again very big in hydrocarbon. I already know a lot of white collar who have lost jobs in hydrocarbon, never get back to work again. And then, of course, people say, oh, we need a border open. We need a border open because if there's a border is closed, all the migrants who are waiting can't come in, and Australians who are stuck overseas cannot return. And these people are supposed to be our saving grace to replace all the people who are going to drop off with those people with double dose of vaccination. Really? Is that the case? Are there that many people, migrants and returning Australians? I don't know. A lot of people have our super funds invested in managed funds such as Vanguard. My own super fund, when I had it, was invested in Vanguard. One of the big players in vaccine industries. So now we expect vaccine, there'll be a lot of vaccine injury and deaths coming in the coming months, because we already have, as of today, 7.9 million of people with double dose of jab. Right now, what is really driving the economy is really vaccine economy, because the other day when I checked the health website, our government official www.health.gov.au, it actually says Australia has ordered 280 million doses of vaccines. That's 10 times, 10 for each Australian. And by the time they are all rolled out, maybe we need to give away some of the vaccines, because there will be a portion of people who would have already died. International trade, with that many, Mountsko went into quite a bit of details as to how what will happen to the international trade. That there will be massive amount of goods stuck that cannot be exported, causing shortage elsewhere, and causing the property goods prices to rise up. And then, of course, as we already all know, the higher the vax rate, the harder the COVID outbreak. Let's have a look at that too. Now, we all know, we all have been talking about CCP and US economic crisis. How is that going to impact Australia? Is Australia that much shielded that we are going to be riding the property property clock, like just like clockwork that has been going on for 18 years, unaffected by CCP and USA economic crisis? I don't know. What about when Taiwan is invaded? Is that going to take a hit as far as the economy is concerned? And then, of course, China has been talking about internationalization of renminbi and the introduction of digital currency, DCEP. Now, with this too, with this, and apparently it is very much welcome and looked forward by all of the Middle East, including Turkey, and even some European countries. They are all looking forward to digitalizing of renminbi. Now, I'm going to invite 007 to give some comments on how some of these factors will impact Australian economy. We may not be able to talk through every one of them, but 007 will give us a highlight in the time that we have available, and that will give you some food for thoughts, and take it away.
Thank you, Bindi. Okay, it is the figures are pretty easy to understand, I believe. Okay, and what we can see is if you have that many people being vaccinated, okay, and then given that we know Moscow said that this is going to be started, so the demand for housing, like in 3 to 5 years' time, when only 50 million population left, there will be less than 5 million houses needed. Less 50% price reduction. All building industry will be crashed. Perhaps prefabricated house to reduce the cost has to be the way, with new land development options open to urban area existing houses to be probably half priced, with all property value to be halved. This is my first thought. So what's the rationale, now if you are property owners, you own more than one houses, probably after 6 months time, people will smell the population reduction. So, and then maybe the selling pressure will be on. That by itself will be sufficiently, plus the unemployment rate, plus people effective in the health through the jabs, they might be able to not to work full time. And so that all together, demand, health, productivity, and also the outlook of the population reduction, that together will create a fear factor, which will with everyone start to sort of put on housing the market. if 1/4 of the house owners, who own the second property will start doing that, it will be no one will start to buy. So that outlook will never seen before, okay? Because normally in the fundamental economic theory, supply and demand, when you have population growth, health population normal without the effects of the vaccination, and that's where driven the economy demand, household demand. When that doesn't exist, when the base numbers start to see negative growth in population, month after month, you only need about 2 quarters, 6 months data, whether you want to show or not. I think that will be known. You can Google the CoreLogicRealEstate.com in Australia. So for the rationale of which fundamental design start to decline, no one can stop that crisis. So that's basically what my opinion is. But don't take it professionally. Ask for your own advice from your financial advisors and the professional real estate advisors. Back to Bindi, what are your thoughts? Okay, Bindi, back to you.
Yeah, sorry. That's only as far as housing is concerned. We keep talking about housing because that's something that is very close to the heart of most people, especially in Australia, because Australia is traditionally very property crazy, which is very unlike the US. They are not as property crazy as us. They are very heavy into shares, into stocks. And in fact, in the US, our landlords do not have much. It's not a high status to say that you own a lot of properties. that's the thing. Yeah, probably has to do with traditionally how Australians, coming from the UK, where you have the landlord class, aristocrats. Who own a lot, properties, and everybody else who don't have, who are traditionally renters, and then they come to a new continent with plenty of land, and you're free to own properties, and maybe that's where the tradition is. Then, of course, for us Chinese, we are also very into property. We like to own properties. This sort of concept of you have to have your own house before you get married is still very much alive. So that's why we talk about properties.
Yes.
This crisis that we are going through, it is unlike any other. The key factor that is going to make things so different is COVID. So the question is, are we? Miles Gore said that the economic crisis is so big that it will take 5, 10, 20, we don't know how long it will take for us to recover. Maybe never. Who knows? And in fact, right now, Japan is already having a real estate crisis. So we quickly go on to, time is running out. Last 5 minutes, we're just going to talk about COVID update. COVID update. I'm going to talk about UK. UK has is going to make a final decision whether to offer COVID jabs to healthy 12 to 15-year-olds within a few days. So advisors are advising against a mass rollout. Now, look at what the vaccine minister says. Vaccine minister says children can overrule parents for jabs. How ridiculous that is. And then you have the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, who insisted that his 12-year-old son will get the vaccine if the law is approved for under 16s. So to me, these two persons, vaccine minister and Labour leader, to me, they are just playing vaccine politics. What do you think, 007?
Well, absolutely, vaccine politics. They plan to be, to basically gain control over that particular age group, okay, of 12 to 15 years old. Knowingly, probably, I don't know, knowingly or not knowingly, this jabs is full of coronaviruses, it can't be too good if you get injected into your system. So, but still push for it without the parents' consent. Okay, is that possible really in the law of UK, Bindi?
Well, in Australia, they're already talking about it. They are talking about jabbing teenagers without parents' consent.
Do they have the institutional right to do that?
Well, I don't know. The thing is, legal or not legal, the thing is that I know legally that you're not supposed to impose a vaccination as a requirement for employment, but they have. Sometimes it's just like, it's just like the US election. Okay, everybody says, oh, okay, election is stolen, but still the process of recounting and everything else still have to go through, by that time, if you want to argue legal, your child has already been jabbed in school. The damage is done. So I think parents need to do a preemptive action rather than trying to argue legal. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if it's determined that, the authorities have no right to do that, legally they are liable. Hey, they're only public servants, They're live. They're live. Even if you strip them of their office, their title, their pay and the pension and whatever else, your child has already been jabbed.
Oh, that would be horrible if that happens. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that the child will understand that the parents are the guardian. Before they're 18, they should get the parents' consent. Hopefully, no one will force the kids to do the jabs, even in the school.
We are living in uncharted waters. We have seen how Australian government is behaving just like the CCP. Anything is possible.
Correct.
So, so that's just the sad thing. In Western Australia, with effect from 1st October 2021, health workers and support workers, that means if you were to deliver things to the hospital, you also need to be vaccinated. Not just doctors, nurses, but all the admin staff, whoever who even deliver anything, even if you were to be just the tea lady in the hospital, you need to be vaccinated. If you are a courier guy that delivers toilet papers to the health facilities, you need to be vaccinated. Can you imagine how extensive that? I've seen the list. You can go look up the thing. How extensive the list is. Like, come on, it's like a ripple effect. Everybody is vaccinated. With the
what about the guy deliver lunchbox?
Exactly, need to be vaccinated.
Okay, that's terrible. So the whole supply chain need to be vaccinated.
Yeah. I'm just going forward. I'm just very quickly going to, just for the sake of informing everybody, all the prophylaxis and early treatment for COVID-19, just to tell people that there is an alternative. There is more than one alternative. There are many alternatives to vaccination. Do not vaccinate because there is no way of reversing the negative effect.
Exactly.
So this is just one example. This is an old example. It shows back in May 2021 when India was having a bad bout of COVID-19. One state government decided to distribute ivermectin, and guess what happens? The death rates, infectious rate, and everything else came down. Just ivermectin, even without zinc or anything else. Without zinc, without vitamin C, without vitamin D. And we know that people who are dark skinned usually are very, very deficient in vitamin D. Back to just a last slide for 007, just to read us what happens to global figure.
Okay, thank you. Global CCP virus pandemic data as of the 6th of September 2021. Global cases is 221.519 million. Global total death is 4.581 million. Among which today new cases US 35,000, Indian 39,000, Brazil 12.9 thousand, Russia 18,600, UK 37,000, France 10,000, Turkey 19,3900, Argentina 1,397, Iran 25,870, Colombia 1,669. So this is the new cases as to today. It's still very high, okay. So as we understand that the major shareholders fundings are okay in the major vaccination companies such as Global Funds, Vanguard, and so on. So those are really, together, the Wall Street and the international capital and CCP backings. This is why the reason why we see the whole vaccination push strongly, okay, out of fashion by all the governments. So we're facing such a time. So the only way we can do now is continuously, okay, share the truth and follow the whistleblowers movements, Mao Score, and the new Federal Reserve of China until we take down the CCP altogether. Thank you. Thank you tonight for watching us, and we'll see you next week at the same time, Monday, Himalaya Australian Business News. Thank you, Bindi Bindi. Thank you, Yun Cai. And thank you, Flower. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Really?